Hi everyone, this is Dave with Learning Media Arabic again, and today we're going to learn a quick way to learn or to find the roots of Arabic words without knowing the measures, if you don't yet know the measures, because eventually you're going to want to know them. Measures are also called forms in the English language, and in Arabic they're called awzan, and you might have heard them called measure 1, measure 2, measure 3, up to, there's measure 9, there's actually measure like 14, but they're very rare. So, the quick way to doing this is to learn the suspicious letters that I call them. And I just call them suspicious letters not because there's anything wrong with them, but simply that they can fool you. So I urge you to be suspicious when you see them. For example, mim, ta, alif, ya, wow, ta marbuta, and then the hamza on the alif and the hamza below the alif. So some of these are easier to spot than others. The ta marbuta especially is never going to be part of a root, but sometimes people just might think it is and they go look it up in the Hans Wehr or something like that dictionary and not find it, so I thought I'd throw it in there. So I'm going to go over some examples, and hopefully you'll develop a quick intuition for what letters to throw out when you're looking for the roots. So here we have an example, murashah, which means candidate. We have in this word the meme is the suspicious letter. The meme in the beginning of the word is most often not part of the root. It's one of the first things you'll probably pick up on if you haven't already. So your root is going to be ra, shin, ha. This word has a shedda, and actually I've noticed many of my words have sheddas in them just by chance when I chose them. So don't think this is particularly important in terms of finding it. But let's move on. Another example, maqar means headquarters. Here you might think, oh, it has 3 letters, so there's 3 letters in a root, so let me go look up mim, qaf, ra. But this word is actually, the root is actually going to be qaf, ra, ra, 2 ras, because of the shedda. And a lot of times they don't show the shedda, or they don't print it. And they certainly don't say it, although there is a way to pronounce it, but it's very hard to tell. So immediately you should be thinking that meme is suspect. So next word, mudammara. Again, ta marbuta is pretty obviously not part of the word. It's suspicious. And this meme in the first position here. So you should be looking in the middle of this word and saying the root is dal, mim, ra. And of course it's a measure 2 because you have the shedda here. But again, if you didn't know the measures, you don't have to worry about it, because we're just talking about how to find that root and how to look it up in a dictionary. Another word, mejzara, massacre. Meme in the first position, ta marbuta at the end, so look in the middle. Jim, zara. Tawattur. Here's a sort of tricky one. The ta in the first position is often suspicious. A ta later on, maybe not so suspicious. We also have the wow here, but in this case, as you learn the measures, you'll see that the wow can be very is not always suspicious. I know I listed it in the suspicious category, but a lot of times it's not if you actually see it. So here the root here is wow ta ra, and that first ta is the suspicious one. So like I said, not always going to be, this ta is not suspicious. It's less suspicious because it isn't in the first position or the second position here. But just keep in mind, these are all just generalities, and they're just shortcuts before you start learning that this is, for example, a measure 5 verbal noun. If you haven't learned that yet, and you don't want to take the time to learn it yet, which I actually urge you to not concern yourself too much with it, and develop an intuition first. That's my policy. However, let's keep going. Again, a measure 5 verbal noun, but you wouldn't know that. So if you haven't learned the measures, I should say, I'm not assuming you don't know that. But we have the initial ta here, and then qadama is your root. It means progress. Here's one. We have the initial ta again, but then we also have the sheen, the aleph, the ba, and the ha. And here, this aleph is another suspicious letter. So if you see these letters in a row, and you have to say, well, which, obviously there's 4 here, and most likely it's not a quadriliteral. It doesn't have 4 letters in the root. It probably has 3, because most words do. So you think, well, what's the most suspicious one? Sheen is not. The ba is not. Ba in the beginning, yeah, you're going to think, well, that might be a preposition. But ba in the middle of the word, no. And the ha, as long as you know that that's not a possessive suffix here, if it's not a possessive pronoun, then you should not be suspicious of that. Although, I would understand if you were. However, the most suspicious thing outside of this initial ta is the aleph. So when you look up a word, look up sheen, ba, and then ha. Another, this will eventually be a measure 6 verbal noun, but if you don't know that, you have the initial ta, you have an aleph in the middle here, and so look up qaf, ra, ba. Musalaha, here we have a ta marbut at the end, we have the mim in the beginning, we have an aleph in the middle. You should be thinking immediately sad, lam, ha as your root. Ittifaq, this is, I keep telling you the measures and what it is, although I know you haven't learned them yet, but I just feel compelled to, I guess. In my mind, it immediately pops in my head. But this is a measure 8 verbal noun, and it's a bit tricky, but like I said, you're throwing out the letters that are suspicious, or at least you're initially throwing them out. So you have this aleph in the beginning, you have this aleph in the middle, and you have this ta. Now, which ones are suspicious? Well, in my opinion, they all are, because this is one of those words where the wow, because of the construction of the measure 8 here, there's actually a wow that's been subsumed by these other letters. So your root is going to be wow, fa, qaf. And it's part of just the construction of the measure 8. But, so, say you saw this word, and like I said, you don't know the measures yet, and you just see this aleph, and you see a ta, and you see an aleph. Should be maybe ask someone if you're not quite sure where you get the wow from yet. Maybe you've heard the word or the root wafaqa before, which means to agree. And if you already know this word means agreement, you might be able to say, well, I see this fa, I see this qaf. It kind of looks like wafaqa, and it has the same meaning as wafaqa. Maybe the root here of this word is also wafaqa. Of course, if you already know the meaning, you may not be needing to know the root, but it's one of these things, you learn it forwards or backwards, and any way you get it, yeah, eventually you start being able to read or understand someone saying it without even thinking about it. It's all a process. Here's another word, very common word in Arabic, of course, salam. The aleph is joined to the lam here in the common way. So this aleph is suspect, so sin, lam, mim would be your root. Qatil, another common construction. A ya in the middle here is suspicious. So qaf, ta, lam. Now some people might say, well, there's a lot of times they see the ta in the second position, and after this first root. And it's true, a lot of times this ta would be suspect, but it's such a short letter, and you already have the ya here. This one would be more suspicious. Again, it's kind of just playing the odds before you go looking it up, because you will eventually have to be looking up words a lot, unless you're using an online dictionary or something. But say you're reading a book that doesn't have an online dictionary, you need to look up words. This is just a quick way to do it. Shi'ar, aleph is suspect. Shin, ain, ra would be your root. Islah is a measure 4 verbal noun. You have this aleph with the hamza. You have another aleph in the middle here. Be suspicious of those. Sad, lam, ha is your root, and you look that up. And there you go. And my final word is eventually just learn these measures, also called forms, also called in Arabic awzan. It will be helpful to learn that, and you'll also be able to solidify in your mind a bit better the various letters that might be suspect. But to leave you on with a summary, let me just go back. Let's go back to these suspicious letters: the meme, the ta, the aleph, the ya, the wow, the tamarbuda, the aleph, hamza constructions. So, yeah, there you go. I hope it's been helpful. And I'll see you next time. Bye.